Christian leaders, this is Pastor John Richards, and welcome to the Christian Leaders Book Club.
Hey, Christian leaders, I'm Pastor Christopher J. Harris, and I'm your co-host, Christian Leaders Book Club. All right, what's up, everybody? We are back, and it's another month. It's a new month, and we're so very thankful for this amazing privilege and opportunity to come back with the Christian Leaders Book Club. I am Christopher J. Harris. This is my co-host, my partner in rhyme.
What's up?
John C. Richards, Jr., Esquire, Reverend Dr.
Whoa, boy. Way too many words. Way too many words. Pastor
man.
John.
Yeah, you'll appreciate this. I was watching a church service a couple weeks ago, and I was like, man, why did we get into the habit of putting people's big faces on these LED walls behind them while they preach?
Oh my goodness. Oh, why? Just don't do that. Please don't. I don't want to see that. I don't know why we do that. I don't
want my picture behind me while I'm preaching.
I don't either, bro. I don't either. Like, introduce me in the beginning and then let me preach the text so that people can focus on the person that they need to focus on, and not my big old face on the LED wall. I just think the tech team thinks it's cool, and we seen it at a TED Talk, and we want to make sure we use this LED screen to all of its capabilities. Man, put something back there that's going to be just ambiance for me. I don't need my face.
If you're going to do it while you're introducing me, and then take it down.
That's it. Take it on down.
It has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. But
no, it does not. It does not. But we are talking about a face of evangelicalism.
That was good, man. That was good. That was good, bro. That was a good lead in, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You nailed that one, man.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. So you and I have had conversations about evangelicalism and understanding this whole phenomenon. A lot of people don't know what that means. So, Pastor Christopher, how would you define, before we even get to the book, how would you define evangelicalism?
That's a good question, and I hadn't even thought about it. Wow, I need to process that.
So let me ask you this: when you think of evangelicalism, what's your picture in mind?
Oh, that's easy. That's easy. So, because I agree with the book on that part, right?
Yeah.
When I hear the words evangelical, I hear white Christian who is probably suburban, who is probably Republican.
There you go. That's it. I cannot disagree with you on that, and I can't agree with you more. And the reason why we're saying this is because our book for this month is Speaking My Mind by Tony Campolo, who is someone who considers himself, and he said this in the book, I'm an evangelical feminist.
He sure did.
Which is an oxymoron for many evangelicals. They're like, you can't be a feminist and evangelical, because we know what an evangelical is. So his goal in the book is to challenge evangelicals and challenge their mentality around what that looks like. And so I wanted to make sure we create that framework around while we're talking about evangelicals, what that means, and then what this book does to be able to challenge some of those preconceived notions.
Yeah, I'm probably a little ahead of the conversation for a minute, and I appreciate you so much for framing that, because I think that's important. I appreciated him acknowledging the tension that he's presenting in the book. I mean, by the time we get through part 1 of the book, at least 3 times he acknowledges, I know that I am, framing something and presenting something that is going to create some tension and some anxiety and, all of that. I'm looking at this section right here. This is page 28, where he talks about, this book, an easy and an arduous task, right? My goal is to save and restore, not demolish. So he's acknowledging that, man, the stuff I want to talk about is challenging me, and it's probably going to challenge you. And I think that disclaimer is important, because now this book was written in 2004.
21 years.
Huh?
21 years ago.
Yeah, I was reading the book, Pastor John, and I was wondering if he saw where we are coming.
That might be it, man. And maybe the book was prophetic in calling him a prophet.
Because he said,
I didn't want to be called that.
Yeah.
I ain't want this, as most prophets don't. I ain't want no parts of this. Yeah. I think so, man. When you read it 20-something odd years later, 21 years later, you're like,
very sobering.
Yeah, it really is. And we chose this book because some of you may know Tony Campolo passed away this year. And so we thought that it might be a good way to revisit some of his thoughts, revisit how he has helped shape some of the conversation around it by reading this book. So that's one of the reasons why we chose this book for October.
Yeah. But my pastor sharing with him that we were doing this book, and he said, he talked about Tony's son, who also has had a huge impact on the generation after Tony, from a ministerial perspective. So I thought that was very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. To that end, I struggle today with the prevalent use of the word revival among evangelicals.
Interesting.
I wonder if we actually authentically know what revival is and what it means.
What do you think they think it means? I'm asking the question, man.
They being evangelicals.
Yes.
I think they think it means that there are more people who are coming to a faith that is framed like theirs. And there are more people that are subscribing to and coming in alignment with a Christian nationalist agenda.
And that's what a revival is. Christian nationalism being expanded to various people around this country.
I think that's how they're defining it.
Wow.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What would you say revival is, and how they have co-opted it? What is a true revival?
Yeah, I'm still working it through. Now, let me also say, before I answer that question, I think the body of Christ overall has mishandled the word revival. Because to me, real revival is the unrestrained power of God being unleashed upon the hearts and lives of people, where we look more like Christ and we do more of what Christ would do.
What is it you're still working through again? Because that sounds like a good definition to me.
Okay. I'm still working through it though. I'm trying to figure out if that's enough, if that's all inclusive and all that. Because, like, I think there's one camp that has defined revival as the kind of church services that we have a few times a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we can have revival at our church. But what is revival? What is it?
Good preaching?
Yeah, is it just good preaching? Like just getting Christians together to have good church is not the be all of revival. To me, that's renewal. That's not revival.
My. I like that distinction. Renewal versus revival. So revival is a outside the church impact.
I think it's outside and inside.
Okay.
I think it's
so how do you distinguish between revival and renewal for people who are inside the church?
Renewal is primarily about those that already have a relationship with Christ.
Okay.
It is reestablishing the relationship. It is resetting the relationship. It's lighting the fire again. It's remembering the first work again. It is pressing the reset button. It is a call to recommitment. But I think true revival has to involve repentance. True revival has to be the acknowledgement of wrongs and unrighteousness and injustice, and where we have not done things in a way that honors God. It is a seat of in Matthew 5, where Jesus says the poor in spirit. It is revival, in my estimation, begins with everybody being poor in spirit.
Okay, I like that. So maybe I should say inside and outside of Christ.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I got you. Now I understand. Okay. Yeah, I think there's a misappropriation of revival, and I think as we're reading through this book, as we're talking through this book, that this could be something that could help redefine what revival is, because their definition is more red, white, and blue. This definition is more covered by the blood.
I'm sorry, the Pentecostal in me came out. I know it was the blood.
Oh man, let's talk about Tony Campolo, man, in this book.
I'm sorry, I'm back.
You know, went Pentecostal on me, man. That's all right, man. I'm a good Baptist. I'm a good Baptist boy, but I can get a little Baptist Costal now. I got a little hybrid in me. All right.
You know you can't talk about the blood of Jesus like that. Just slide it right on in and expect you to have no reaction at all. What's wrong with you, man?
It still works.
Oh, glory.
Man, you own one today, man.
I told you before we started what happened. I told you.
Yeah, you did. You did. That's hilarious.
Man, I used to apologize for being churchy. I don't apologize no more.
Man, ain't no need to.
All these people are religious with their teams and have reactions about their teams. Man, I saw one of my neighbors. I ain't gonna tell you which team he follows, but his team last football season, their opportunity to go to the playoffs came down to one play. And they made the play. This dude took off running down the street. He took off running down the street. I said,
man. Yeah, whole Baptist fit.
Bro, I said, if this dude can run down the street for a football team, I can have a little reaction for God. Come on, man.
Talk about Jesus.
Hey, glory. I'm sorry, y'all. We just cut up a little bit. All right,
man.
This is good medicine.
So the book for this month, Speaking my mind, the radical evangelical prophet tackles the tough issues Christians are afraid to face.
Yeah.
And this is a book written by Tony Campolo, and it's giving him an opportunity to lay out probably some grievances he has with the evangelical community.
Yeah.
It's our book for October. We've gone through, man, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months already. We
Yeah, man.
still have one to revisit, don't we? Super Communicators,
Super communicator.
which we weren't able to visit during that month, but we're going to circle back around to it. Anything else you want to say about this list before we jump into this book?
I do want to just say I want to again reemphasize that I am always amazed, and I believe how the Holy Spirit works in the selection of these books and sort of what's happening in culture, happening in the world. It's interesting, Pastor John. At least I didn't think about it this way. I don't know if you did. It's interesting that we are doing this book right after the book we had last month, because in my estimation, what Tony does is the very opposite to what the last book did. The last book took a position wrongly and then argued that position. Tony presents an argument and all the information. Here's where I am, but I'm releasing you to make up your own mind. And I think
like
that's a big deal, bro.
Yeah, that's a gracious and charitable way to do work in this space, especially when there's so much division.
Yeah.
It's really charitable. It really is.
Yeah, man. I think so. I think, I appreciate Tony's approach much better than I appreciate the approach from last month.
For sure. Yep, without a doubt, man. And even where he disagreed, he's like, you know how Paul is making in the New Testament, he's making these appeals to his brothers, his Jewish brothers and sisters. Yes. It has that type of spirit, man. It's like, man, I love y'all so much because I grew up in this. I know what this is.
Yes.
And so I'm just making my appeal before you, and you can make the decision yourself.
Yeah, man. So let's jump into it. So the book is divided into 2 sections, and you and I have this in common, where our overall appreciation of a book oftentimes is centered around, does the author have a flow? Do they tell us what they're going to tell us, and then do they tell us that?
Yep.
And he does.
Yep.
He has a good flow. I think you and I both argue the point that we may not agree or are in perfect alignment with everything that he says. But what I do appreciate is how he lays out his argument, and I can follow how he arrives at his conclusion.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
How you, like there's an African-American guy, he's a professor, and he argues against redlining.
He argues against it.
He argues against redlining. So I read one of his books. I followed I followed what he says. His train of thought is illogical.
Really?
There's a point where you get to his argument where he veers from facts. Right?
Wow.
And so we can't get to a right conclusion if you're using wrong data, wrong information.
Yep.
What I'm saying about Tony is I appreciate that I can actually follow the argument that there is a spiritual, biblical, historical, and sociological framework that he uses to get to where he is.
Yep.
Can't get mad at that.
Yep. No, I agree.
Yep.
No, that works. Yeah, so I think Campolo does a really good job, man. He does. I'll commend him for that for sure. Before I start to critique him a little bit later.
So I love this. And I wrote this down, Pastor John, in the book. I don't know if you can see that, but I did some writing in the book there. He uses phrases that forced me to also make sure I was clear on things that he was saying. Like, for
Hmm.
example, mainline denomination.
Mm.
Whatever reason, like I know what that is because I've been in around the space enough, right? But to
Hmm.
actually define it and know what's included in that list, I was like, man, let me
Hmm.
let me make sure I'm clear about what he's saying is a mainline denomination.
Because
His
on its face, it sounds like it could include denominations that are considered evangelical or outside of the mainline. Because mainline has now become a name for a denomination that is more liberal, but people who are regular people don't know that. When they think that mainline, they're like, "Oh yeah, Baptist, all that." No, those aren't the mainline denominations. So at first I was a little bit trying to figure out why are you starting with this mainline. The first question: what happened to mainline denominations? I'm like, you
yeah,
talking about evangelicals?
yeah,
Why are we starting with mainline? We already know what they've done. But
yeah,
then I'm like, maybe we haven't. We
yeah,
don't know. So yeah, that was my. I thought that was interesting.
yeah. So he says, or in the book we find out it's mainline is a historic established Protestant ch- churches in the United States that are often theologically liberal and which were once the dominant form of Protestantism in the country. UMC, ELCA, Episcopal, Presbyterian, American Baptist, United Church of Christ, Christian Church, which are the disciples of Christ. So I thought that was good. To just have kind of as a reference. And man, he forced me to do some thinking in here, right? Forced me to kind of just take a step back and make sure I was clear, with what he's saying. Uh,
Mm,
what's let's deal with this because the second half of the book is where I think we're going to have the breadth of our conversation.
yeah.
What was your overall takeaway from the first half of the book? What notes stood out to you? What things did you appreciate, not appreciate, et cetera, et cetera?
I think the way he walked through the way evangelicalism was outdoing mainline denominations was helpful. Kind of think through how, man, evangelicalism has been very intentional
Yeah,
about where it has arrived, which makes me wonder all the more how you sell out what you have tried to accomplish over the years
yeah,
for something that doesn't look like what you set it out to do,
yeah.
at least in your mind, right? And so now proximity to power causes you to take away all that you felt like you've done and throw it behind something and someone that won't be there in the next 3 years. So
Ooh-wee.
how you pick up the pieces after that, after decades of trying to shape this agenda, this moral majority, right? And so I like the part about uh, effectively marketing religion, the abundance of charismatic leaders, entrepreneurial leaders in the evangelical space as opposed to the mainline spaces. So I think he did a good job of talking about the growth of evangelicalism and how it contrasted with the mainline denoms.
Um, I loved, I loved the practicality of how he approached historical events and activities
Mm. Hmm.
and wove it into not just him trying to make a point,
Yeah.
but provide some context, right? Like the conversation that he has about promise keepers. Like, hey, like promise keepers did this, 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 and this. I think it probably messed up on this, but it did this right, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And to state that to me, again, that goes back to the grace with it, right? It goes back to the goal here of not to destroy and tear down everything, but I'm trying to weave in
Hmm.
an argument here that I just want you to see. And for me, some of these things we lived through, some of it I did not, right? Some of it happened before you and I were even born, but it helped to give
Hmm.
us a list. Bro, I was blown away
Hmm.
uh, that evangelicalism was fundamentalism.
Yep. Yep.
You know that?
It. Yeah. I mean, it morphed, but like when I man, this is the thing that intrigued me the most because I like my U.S. church history class was one of my favorite classes because my professor he kind of made the connecting of the dots from the Scopes trial all the way through to evangelicalism. And when I saw that, man, something really clicked for me because I'm like, even they have, he said that they like evolved from this idea of like being small-minded around things, but you're still seeing within the evolution that they're missing so many components of what the holistic faith and gospel looks like, that seeing that evolution, I'm like, okay, but y'all haven't arrived yet, wherever arriving is. So yeah, I did know that fundamentalism has forayed into that, and that fundamentalism was really, really stringent, bro. And we both know that. But it's become what is now modern day evangelicalism. But that term right there, man, it's so packed with so much meaning, evangelicalism. And then I think there's a lot of cultural Christians who consider themselves evangelicals that really don't help in the process of trying to make sure that we make that phrase something positive.
Well, he makes a point, and I actually put this quote on my social media the other day.
I think I saw it in the early chapter.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He said, you knew I was walking through it, huh? When you saw that,
I said, oh, he started to read. He's going through this book, getting some quotes.
Well, he makes the point about the difference between being converted into Christianity versus socialized into Christianity. Like, to me, that right there is a cornerstone of the book.
Yeah.
Like how did you get your faith and where did you get it from is to me the foundation of that point of whether or not you were converted into Christianity, authentic transformative experience, encounter with Christ, what have you, or were you socialized into Christianity, and then what kind of Christianity were you handed?
Yeah. What were you giving? Handed down from your ancestors. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. That first half, though, I mean, that first part of the book really works through much of that. And I like what he said. If evangelicalism becomes frozen, this is in chapter 3.
Yeah.
It becomes frozen in practices and thought patterns that are not biblically founded, it will die. I think not enough is said about that. Like, people are talking about mainline churches dying, but there's a real danger that evangelicalism and evangelical churches who continue to ascribe to what you talked about earlier with this nationalism piece, that they would be in danger of dying eventually. That I don't believe that God will suffer or put up with a church that way. And even though they've been in quote unquote power, even though they've had the finances and funding to do it, man, there could be some reckoning coming. And that's what Campolo is trying to help avoid for them.
So he quotes one of my professors. Will Willimon was one of my professors at Duke.
Okay, and, Will Willimon?
Yeah, and he quotes him on page 16. He says, let me just read this because this contextualizes what you were saying right now. He says, my friend Will Willimon, dean of the Duke University Chapel, he's not that anymore, but he was, and a prime example of a charismatic leader who nevertheless possesses all the credentials of a rational legal leader, and he breaks down what that means, says that the last person to join a mainline church probably did so somewhere around 1958.
58, yeah.
By no means is he suggesting that nobody has joined any mainline church since then. He is stressing only that over the last 40-some years, people have not been joining churches because of denominational labels. When people move into new neighborhoods, they do not necessarily look for the church that has a denominational label that was a part of their family tradition and in which they were raised. Instead, they usually go church shopping and try out all the churches in town. They look for a church that will best fit the needs of their children. Usually they end up in highly evangelistic churches because these churches are most likely to have exciting programs for young people and interesting worship programs.
Yep. I mean, you've seen it.
Absolutely.
You've seen it. Folks are like, I'm not looking for a Baptist church. I'm not looking for man, everybody takes pride in non-denominational churches now. So yeah, absolutely, man. I totally agree with Willimond's quote there. That's 1958 is just crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I do want to, before we get into section 2 of the book, because I want to hear some of your critiques. You and I both, I think, agree he did an amazing job at acknowledging culturally the separation for evangelicals, and then how this may look for African Americans in particular. He does just a small treatment of this for Hispanic Christians and Asian Christians, but he spends quite a bit of time on African American Christians. And here's the quote right here: African American churches do not fit the profiles generally drawn of evangelicals.
Yep. 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 And
And I
so
think that's important.
I think it's super important. And to him, I want to say thank you, because many white authors often ignore, because Black Christians aren't necessarily the audience, right? He could have just said, but it helps his readers understand stuff about the Black church that they don't understand at all.
Yeah.
Like misunderstand and then misappropriate. And then they take one Black spokesperson for the Black church and then say, this is what the Black church says. It's like, no. We have an entire history of orthodoxy that you got to be aware of. And one knows that Tony Campolo understood what our history of orthodoxy is. So I want to salute him for making sure he put that in the book for sure.
Absolutely. Man, I'm just, so going through the book, it's interesting, like he even, some of the people that he named in the book, I mean, some of these people have just recently passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Like he mentioned James Dobson in the book, and the whole focus on James Dobson just passed away. So you think about like the influence of these folks and the domino effect of their campaign or whatever their platform was, and the overall impact that it would or might have on the unity or disunity of the church.
Yeah. Yep. That's good, man.
Anything else in section 1 before we jump into section 2? Because our time, of course, is moving super fast.
I like the fact that he said the religious right controls the microphone.
Oh,
I thought that was spot on for 2005 or 4, whenever he wrote this, and it's spot on for 2025. Think 21 years later.
Meaning the radio, the television, and the publishing.
All the things, man. Yeah. And if you control all those things, you control the information that you're getting to people.
Yep.
21. Think about that. 21 years of this, 2+ decades. People act like this just happened since 2020. No, it's been 2+ decades of controlling the narrative and the microphone, and more than that.
It has been argued. I want to go back to a point you just made.
Mm-hmm.
It has been argued that the agenda was set before there was a candidate.
Mm-hmm.
The candidate that they found just so happens to be a great fit on the microphone for the agenda.
Yeah.
So the candidate becomes the scapegoat without people fighting the agenda, when what really needs to happen is that we have to fight the agenda and not just the candidate.
So you're saying the candidate isn't the problem. He's just the puppet.
And potentially, I mean, the argument is out there that the candidate is simply an opportunist.
And they're fueling the opportunism. Okay. I can't argue against it. I cannot, without a doubt.
Last thing I'm gonna say about part 1, and then if you got something else, and then we're gonna jump into part 2.
Okay.
I did walk away from the last chapter. Why did evangelicals get so big? I walked away from that chapter asking the question, man, at what point do we get a chance to move past just 2 parties? When do we get a chance to actually walk past the point of just having two parties?
That's a question that people have been asking since the inception of the two-party system. And because of the economic factors that are behind it, it is almost an impossibility, man. I work in this space at the local level and have run independent candidates for partisan positions. And the biggest issue, Pastor Christopher, and I don't want to get too deep down the rabbit hole, but the biggest issue is the requirements for independents to even get on the ballot.
Yeah.
The signature requirements, how the signatures have to be perfect, and how they have to match perfectly to what they signed on the driver's license when they were 15 years old.
Yeah.
And so those things are barriers to us even moving away from something that's been hurtful for our entire country for many, many years. Because we get these swings, man. If we're controlling it, it's like this. If they're controlling it, it's like this. What about the people who are here, which is most of America?
Yeah.
Most of America's in the middle. So, yeah, we need to move past that, man. But that's a larger conversation that is frustrating for me at so many levels.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did have one thing that I wanted to say about chapter 3.
Yep.
About this Barner study. Non-Christians have a very low opinion of evangelicals. On a list of people they respect, evangelicals ranked 11th.
But right in front of prostitutes.
Followed by prostitutes. I was like, why you doing like that, Campolo? But think about that, man. The view that people who are not Christian have of evangelicals is just better than prostitutes. My goodness gracious.
That story tells about the guy that asked, about evangelicals, and then they walk into a restaurant, the three groups of people. He says, do you have a problem that how you define evangelicals is different than how you define Christ?
Yeah, that set the tone for the rest of this book. I was like, come on. What you got for me?
Yeah. All right, brother. Let's jump into the section 2 here, because we ain't got that much more time left.
I know, man. We're gonna start with sexism.
Let's do it.
I think it's worth exploring. Chapter 4's title is Evangelicalism Sexist?
Hold on, Pastor John. So people that will watch this and may see it even later. Section 2 of the book, Campolo identifies what he believes are hot button big topics that the church needs to discuss, address, have discussions about if it's going to move forward and have any level of healthy influence and credibility, not just in the culture, but also from an evangelistic perspective. Let me just lay those out, Pastor John, and then we jump right into chapter 4. So he says, is evangelicalism sexist? Are evangelicals handling the gay issue all wrong? Is there a chance for those who die without Christ? Are evangelicals afraid of science? Can we help the poor without making matters worse? Is Islam really an evil religion? Are evangelicals too militaristic? Do we understand why so many people throughout the world hate America? Are evangelicals right about America being in more decline? Is evangelicalism headed for a split? And then he ends, which I did read chapter 4. So if you read the book, he says, I want you to read the last chapter and then come back. So I did go and read chapter 14 as well, which is there hope for a better day. So, all right, chapter 4. Is evangelicalism sexist?
Yes. I'm playing. So his argument, man, his argument is those who push women out of the church are denying them to what's crucial to their identity as people.
He says
that. Yep. Talked about his mom, her evangelistic messaging. He talked about the history of evangelicalism, like many of the women who were called to be preachers in these denominational churches, how SBC, the Southern Baptist Convention, changed their position on women. They had women pastors.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. Actually, I didn't know that. Yeah, I was unaware.
Bro, when I read that, I was like, what?
I was unawares. And the way they treated Billy Graham's daughter when she was speaking, they turned their chairs around as she was speaking.
Bro.
Because she was a woman.
I think, well, go ahead and state your opinion about what he says, and then I'll make a point.
I like the way he framed it though.
Yes.
Because he didn't talk about the persons, he talked about the principalities.
Yes.
He called it a structural evil. Yes. Not personal evil. Because he said the truth of the matter is these people truly believe that what they're doing and what they're saying is actually good. But he's saying that there is a structural component. He writes, a structural evil is one that exists apart from the conscious will of specific individuals, but nevertheless exercises controlling influence on how groups of people think and act. Yeah. He said it's not even their conscious, they're not exercising their conscious will, that there's a controlling influence over the group. It's master groupthink around structures that cause that to be evil. I thought that was really good for him laying out that principalities and powers argument that Paul lays out in Ephesians.
Did you notice how many times he went back to using racism as the example to talk about the principalities and the powers?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
It's almost like he was itching to either write another chapter that specifically dealt with that, or the publisher was like, no, come back. But it's such a real example that it's easy to do it.
Of course. And he kept saying, y'all racist. Y'all, without having a chapter on racism, y'all gonna get all this y'all racist conversation.
Yeah.
So he addresses it historically, he addresses it theologically, he addresses it sociologically, like the way he unpacks it in terms of the sexism that's present helps people from a biblical perspective, from a cultural perspective, historical perspective, and then from a sociological perspective.
He also addresses it from a just very practical perspective, very, very, very practical. Like the example he used of Billy Graham's daughter, and then my man said, Tony says, he says, how could you deny that the grace is on her life?
Y'all out there frothing at the mouth at the Graham Crusades, but just because he's a woman and she's speaking like her father in the same ways, you're denying that because she's a female?
He in essence, like he draws on the historical, like I felt like in that moment, it's almost like he's one of the disciples and he's calling them to attend to what they all experienced already. He's like, he was at the Billy Graham Crusades. His daughter has the same oil he has. How y'all gonna deny that? That's what I felt like.
How could you deny that spirit baptism for this person? Right? The same spirit that fell on. Yeah. I thought that.
Can I dip my toe into some quick controversy on this?
Go ahead, murky waters. Go ahead.
I feel the same way in terms of how evangelicals treat Priscilla Shirer and a few others.
Yeah.
Like if you listen to her daddy and then listen to her, you like, ain't no way this ain't the same oil.
You can't deny it, bro. You can't deny it.
There's no way this is not the same oil.
I'm like, she's the second best preacher in her family, and there's a bunch of them. Dude. And that's only because he has more volume.
Bro. If she was pastor in that city and the Lord told me to go to that church, she would be my pastor without hesitation.
Right. Yeah. So
I think the church has got to figure out what we're going to do about this, right? And we've got to have some honest discussions. I keep going back to this, and I don't want to beat a dead drum. Right after, the kind of 2 months that we've had in the body of Christ and the divisiveness that has taken place is it's undeniable. Dr. A.R. Bernard preached a message the Sunday after Charlie Kirk's murder. And he is so masterful, man. He's such a sage. He's so wise. He said you can be biblical, but not be Christ-like. That was the entire message. It was 14 minutes. And if you follow Dr. Bernard, you know he doesn't really raise his voice.
He don't go.
But bro, he got a little crump.
Oh, Bernard don't never have to go, but he went.
You saw it. You saw it.
Uh-huh. He went up. I said, wait a second, AR.
Hey, bro. He started getting there, and I sat up on my seat. I said, "Oh my God!"
Right. I was like, okay, I like this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey,
yeah.
To the Baptist church, watch your voice, Reverend.
Hey, watch your tone, Reverend.
So I just think the point is, those that argue against women as pastors and preachers, I think it's not just a letter of the law thing, because you can be biblical, but I don't think you can be Christ-like, right? And or there can be times that you can be biblical and not Christ-like. A better way for me to say that. And so I think this boils down to that. And I will close out this point before we get to the next chapter by saying, I would not want to be in the seat where I have to answer for denying somebody a grace that God gave them because I was straining out a gnat.
That's good, man. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
All right. Anything else you want to say about chapter 4?
No, I think we're good on that, man. I think we're good on that.
Do we want to deal with chapter 5?
Yes, sir.
Evangelicals handling the gay issue all wrong. Which it should be noted that he and his wife, he being Tony, and his wife publicly disagreed on where they landed on this issue.
Yeah. Yes, that's important. That's important distinction to know. Because it's like, I disagree with my wife on this. I thought the orientation behavior section that he talked about was really interesting. And then his resolutions to the issue for evangelicals. He had a couple of resolutions that are important to kind of talk through. But he talked about being a differentiation between orientation and behavior. Yeah. I can be like, someone can have the orientation, but not act it out. And he said that there's a difference between what a person actually does and what they think or think about. And so oftentimes people condemn people for the thoughts and not the behavior, rather than moving them towards taking those thoughts captive, right? And then trying to figure out how to live out the Christian faith, even with those thoughts in your mind. What about you?
No, I agree with that. My mind went to do you know Dr. David Anderson?
I think I may have heard the name before.
Dr. David Anderson, he pastors in the DMV area.
Okay.
And he spent some time having some discussion about, the conversation around sexuality and, what that looks like. And I sort of wish that he and Tony Campolo maybe had a conversation, because here's what Dr. Anderson does. He says there's really 3 dimensions to the conversation around sexuality from a Christian perspective. He says there's the temptation, that is the struggle. There's the behavior, and then there's the agenda. He says you have to treat all 3 differently, because if you don't, you can misappropriate your reaction to the actual thing that you're trying to address. In other words, if you have a person, say in your family or in your church, that is dealing with temptation, not the behavior or not the agenda, but you think that it's the agenda, you're going to now beat them up when the conversation really is how do we address conversations around temptation, right?
That's good, man. Yeah.
Yield not to temptation, but yielding is sin. That's a hymn.
Mhm.
He says, if you treat somebody that's engaged in the behavior like it's just a temptation, then you miss the opportunity to actually minister to them appropriately because they're already engaging in a behavior that may not be healthy. He said, but if you treat the agenda like it's just a temptation, then you're going to be too light in addressing the agenda, because the agenda, back to your point earlier on what he addresses in part 1, it's a principality and a power.
Yeah.
And you got to approach the principalities and the powers very
differently. Differently, man. That's good. Okay, David Anderson. I like that. I like that. So that actually adds one component to what Campolo's saying here.
Yeah.
Because he talks about orientation, he talks about behavior, but he doesn't really get into the agenda piece. I think that's good. One of the things that, now I've talked about stuff I didn't agree with. Here's one of the things he said. I was like, oh, okay. Personally, I believe that most of those who claim to have been homosexuals who have changed into heterosexuals are really bisexuals.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Okay, so I wanted to make sure we're gracious in the way we have the conversation, but also honest and say, hey, there's some stuff that I was like, no, because if I talk to somebody like Jackie Hill Perry, she'd be like, no. 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 Yeah.
There's a young lady in our church, 2 young ladies in our church that no, it's more than that actually, but that were in that lifestyle. And they would argue, if I were to invite them right onto this platform right now, they would argue very strongly. They are heterosexual. Right? Very clear.
You know what I was shocked about? Henry Nouwen and the struggles he had. I didn't know about that.
I didn't either.
Yeah, so I thought that was really interesting, but I think it was a good example for what he was trying to prove in the book. So,
but once he said that, it made perfectly clear sense to me on why he's quoted in the places that he's quoted so often.
For sure. Yeah. Oh, totally agree. I get what you're saying.
Now, I do think that distinction though between temptation, behavior, and agenda is also, it's a sticking point in the evangelical space today, because rightfully so, and again, going back to how you and I earlier defined evangelical, rightfully so, they oftentimes are responding to anything in that vein as the agenda, right? From a political perspective. Yeah. A lot of what we see happening in culture today with evangelicals is a reaction to previous administrations and the agenda that has been put. Where I think evangelicals mess up is a couple things. One, again, not everything is an agenda. You're dealing with people one-on-one and in relational perspective and in community, it may not be an agenda. You may be dealing with a temptation or a behavior, or as Campolo says, orientation or behavior, et cetera, but it may not be the agenda. But if you treat everything that way, it's going to come across very un-Christ-like. Here's the other thing that I think is important, right? And Campolo does this, is what you and I argued the point or supported the point that he did this, and that is that the conversation around sexuality has been co-opted and interlaced with the conversation around civil rights.
Yes.
Really, justice issues for African Americans. And things have been interlaced and co-opted in the public square. It has made it very difficult to actually have true, healthy, authentic conversations as it relates to justice for people of color.
Yeah. And that's one thing you can't do. You can't ignore the sheep for the shearers.
Yeah.
Just because you're addressing the systems, there's still sheep that need to be pastored and led and shepherded. And if you're stuck on the agendas, then you're missing the people who have real temptation, who have real issues. So
but this is why it makes sense for me why that was such a light bulb moment for me to discover that evangelicals today used to be fundamentalists.
Mm-hmm.
So the response is a fundamentalistic response.
It is. Yep. Still has that taste of fundamentalism.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good, man. Man, you know we got like 6 more issues here. You want to pick one that we can tackle real quick?
No.
Oh man. We got militarism, we got Islam, we got poor, dealing with the poor. We got I can skip the science one. What you think?
It's too much. It's all of it is too much to talk about. Man, we can't do all.
I know. Boy, you mentioned the last chapter. Can we just talk about hope?
Yes.
The hope he has. Can we close with hope?
Yeah.
What were some of the things you took away from that 14th chapter?
Yeah. Let me just read this quote right here that I highlighted.
Okay.
He says, in short, I sense that a growing proportion of the evangelical community is developing a holistic doctrine of salvation, declaring that the salvation being wrought by Jesus not only delivers sinners from condemnation, but also provides the vision and hope needed to work for a world marked by social justice and ecological well-being. Of course, there will be a significant reaction against these hopeful tendencies, but I believe that history is on the side of those progressive evangelicals who are increasingly evident, especially within Generation X.
That's good. Here's the thing that struck me about this last chapter. He says, what I have to say should not be taken as some kind of summa theological.
Yeah, man. That's St.
But
Thomas.
rather as a challenge to my sisters and brothers to be willing, for the sake of eternal truth, to endure the heat that will come from those in our evangelical community who think the most important thing in life is to play it safe. And he talked about his Jewish friends saying, I'm afraid of anything that comes back from the dead.
Yeah.
And he said, what he didn't realize was fundamentalism wasn't dead. It was only wounded. And I was like, man, that's so good. And so I think he ended with a challenge to them to say, hey, man, let's not play it safe with the gospel.
Yeah.
Let's really think about some of the things that we've inherited from this fundamentalist view that has become evangelicalism, and change where we can and admit that we were wrong where we can. We did it with science. All y'all thought it was flat. The earth was flat. Oh, you thought we revolved around the earth and not the sun. At some point, you got to admit that you're wrong and move forward. And so I think that's what was gracious about this book, and I enjoyed that part of it for sure.
Yeah, I left chapter 14. So mind you, again, I read the the preface and then the introduction, I think it was. I read the forward, the preface, and then chapter 14, and then I went to part 1, read chapters 1, 2, 3. I walked away from chapter 14 saying to myself, many evangelicals today that share what they have problems with don't offer solutions for the problems.
Huh. Ooh, I like that. Yes,
they generally will argue against something, but they don't argue for something. They don't
know
argue
what you're for.
They don't argue a point of a solution because their problem is one-sided.
My. Yeah. I like that, man.
Like if Tony were to write a sequel to this book, if he were still alive, he'd write a sequel to this book. I think he would include a chapter about history. Right?
Yeah.
So if you're evangelical and you embrace the fact that the Holocaust happened, why are you not also embracing that the Middle Passage happened, that chattel slavery happened.
Mm-hmm.
So why is it that we are taking away the truth of chattel slavery, but we're not taking away the truth of the history of any other people group?
Correct. Yeah, that's good, man. I think he would add a chapter 15 or 13, 14, and then move the last one to 15, right? Then he can talk about some race.
Yeah.
No, this is good, man. This is good. Well,
I think this is recommended reading, brother.
oh, for sure. Yeah, without a doubt, man. It's got to be on the list.
Yeah, it's recommended reading.
So next month we got It's Okay Not to Be Okay.
Yes, sir.
It's a book about self-care. It's a book about being honest. I haven't started reading it yet, but it was one that we picked intentionally for that month. Holidays are a time where people start to process, losing loved ones and process grief, things like that, man. I've seen it in our church. I know you've seen it in your church. So we want to make sure we address something that people are dealing with in the season of life, man. I think it's going to be timely book, timely message. So,
yeah. All right, everybody. This is the Christian Leaders Book Club. Whatever platform you're listening to this on, there is a link at the bottom of that you can subscribe to. Right at the bottom, subscribe to stay plugged in and connected to us. Pray for Pastor John and I in the next few weeks or so. We're going to be praying and sitting down to talk about 2026. So pray that God will give us the wisdom and the insight we need for that, and help us to be even prophetic in our approach for this book club. So thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for being a part of the tribe. Thank y'all for being a part of the family. Hope you guys have an amazing day. We'll see y'all next month for our next book. It's Okay to Not Be Okay.
See y'all next month.
Peace.